Hello and welcome back to 1874 in association with Match Bingo. If you head to 1874.io/Match Bingo, you'll be able to download the app and play some bingo alongside the football that's coming up in the next few days and weeks. We've got the World Club Cup and, of course, the Women's Euros as well. So you can buy your bingo cards for those games and you can win anything between £25 and £250, depending on the speed in which you get a full house or a line. That's how bingo works, I believe. So do check out them. We're really, really pleased that they're sponsoring us, and it's actually a really good app, and I've won some money myself. So do support the channel by heading over to 1874.io/Match Bingo, and you'll be supporting the channel. Now, this is a very special transfer show here. I am absolutely delighted after a long absence to be joined by, for the love of Paul McGrath's, Neil Dunworth, one of the best European football experts out there, aren't you, Neil? And we've been doing some scouting between us. We've been speaking to our contacts, and we have come up with the definitive list. One realistic signing for every position, and to add to that, every signing is from a different league as well. So you've got a goalkeeper, a fullback, a centre-back, a midfielder, an attacking midfielder, and a striker. And me and Neil, we think these are realistic transfer options for Aston Villa Football Club. Neil, how are you feeling ahead of this? We've really put in our football knowledge to the test here.
I've got a massive head after that. If you called me an expert, I'm a guy in my office that just watches too much football. But yeah, this was fun. This was really fun. I tried to like when you were asking me if I was interested in doing this, we had actual mutual selections that we came up. That we didn't discuss at all, and we actually came up with those names ourselves, which is really interesting. But I kind of went off piste for a couple of mine, just with people that haven't really been discussed before, but I think would be realistic signings, because that was what the brief was let's get realistic signings for Aston Villa, people that would come and they could potentially fit into an Emery system.
Yeah, and let's just clarify for those that haven't understood what we're saying. If Villa don't sign any of these players, we're not saying that Villa are in for these players. They're not even been linked with any of these except for one. For my knowledge, these are just players that Neil and I like, that we think would be realistic signings for Villa, and they're all from different leagues as well. So there's a wide scope and a wide variety to our picks. Now let's throw Neil under the bus straight away. There may be some interesting pronunciations through this video as well, no more so than this one. The first pick, this is Neil's pick, a goalkeeper. Probably a hard position for us to pick because we don't really know what's going to happen with Emi Martinez at the moment, Neil. So we quite easily could have gone for a backup goalkeeper, because we know Villa do need a backup keeper, a number 2 goalkeeper, whatever happens. But instead, you've plumped for a potential Emi Martinez replacement. Marco Carnesecchi, I believe, is the pronunciation. Neil, to correct me if I'm wrong. He's 24 years old, about to turn 25, 191 centimetres, and he is an Italian international playing for Atalanta. Why do you like him?
The biggest thing for me with Carnesecchi is that he's young. He's played under a really progressive and good tactical philosopher in Gasperini with Atalanta. Yeah. And the big thing for me is, if you're going to replace Emi Martinez, you can talk about what type of keeper you want, but there's going to be somebody that's going to need to be good off his line and be good with the ball at his feet. And Carnesecchi for me is a really good sweeper keeper, for want of a better word. He's a good reader of the game. He's fast off his line. He's got decent pace to him, actually. Because initially I had thought of Milinkovic-Savic from Torino here, and we were really kind of focusing on Serie A for goalkeepers here, because most people have done ones, and I know you've done shows on La Liga goalkeepers and Luca Chevalier. Exactly, yeah. So Serie A was kind of a ripe kind of fruit for this that no one had really touched on. So that's why I kind of settled on this guy. Would be imminently gettable. Not a name that trots off the tongue for a lot of people. Doesn't for us, because we're pronouncing his name incorrectly. But he's got the traits that I could see that could be that could fit into an Emery system. Very good at one-on-ones. Very good at coming out to stop through balls, and could help if we went back to playing that high line system that Unai Emery likes to play. And pretty decent with the ball at his feet as well. He's I think off the top of my head, I think he had about a 72-73% pass completion rate, which doesn't sound great, but that's over across all different types of passes, including when he lumps it forward as well. So he's kind of that modern goalkeeper. Got a lean build. He's athletic, and he's not just somebody there who's going to block shots all day long. he's got a bit more about him, and he kind of, he's more rounded in the game of football than a lot of goalkeepers are.
Yeah, I read earlier some loose links to Manchester United. Obviously, it's clear that they might be in the market for a new goalkeeper, although unless they can shift Onana, that they're not going to be able to enter the market for a goalkeeper. There's two things I would like about this signing if Emi was to leave, and obviously I don't want Emi Martinez to leave the football club. The first one is the Champions League experience, the European experience. I always think that that's really, really crucial for a goalkeeper when you've come up against lots of different teams in lots of different countries and international as well. Even though he's 24, about to turn 25, he's got lots of experience. The reason I would like this type of signing is because I think it would show smart recruitment. And I think you could say this a little bit about Brentford as well. When a manager leaves that's been there a long time, I think the vultures should start to circle on that team, and I can see that happening with Brentford, and I can actually see it happening with Atalanta, as well, because Gasparini's gone to Roma. Roma may well enter the market for some Atalanta players, although I'm sure they'd be charged at a premium. But when someone like Gasparini leaves a club like Atalanta, who've been brilliant, such a fascinating team to watch as well, I think if you're a club with ambition and a club that's got a bit of nous, you swoop into that club when a manager of that stature and who's been there for that amount of time leaves.
And I think it's another thing that will kind of wet a lot of managers' whistles is the fact that Gasparini is such a tactically based manager. He's what, I can't remember what age he is, but he's late 60s.
68, I think he's 68.
And he's been adaptable in his play throughout his time at Atalanta as well. His teams play high pressing, they play man marking, they need a goalkeeper that will act as a last line of defense. Obviously, all goalkeepers are like that, but one that will not be afraid to come out and to help out his defenders if they do get stuck in one-on-one situations, and he needs to come out and take those through balls. And I think Unai Emery would appreciate that with the goalkeeper. Obviously, realistically speaking, I don't think it's going to be the number one thing on Emery's list, but it's something that I think that if we were to go back to what made us so good in the year we qualified for the Champions League, was that high line and that regimental defensive discipline that we had. And Emi Martinez was very good coming off his line in instances like that. So I don't want to lose that, and I want to have that ability in my goalkeeper. And this guy fits the bill.
Okay, so that's the pick for goalkeeper. A heavily Neil-based pick, this one. Neil had the goalkeeper gap, and he went for it. This was who he picked. The next one as well, the fullback. This is an absolute wild card from Neil. It's Jenny Catamo, full name Jenny Cipriano Catamo, which I quite like. He's 24 years old, and he's from Mozambique. I delved into his who scored stats this morning because I'm going to be honest, I didn't know an awful lot about him. Neil told me this was wing back. So this was going to be a wing back, and I've looked at where he's played on who scored, and basically, Neil, he's played everywhere. He's played as a right wing back 10 times, a left wing back 6 times. He's played right of midfield. He's played as a number 10. He's played right wing, a forward on the left hand side, and he's played as an attacking midfielder on the left. According to who scored, his strengths are finishing, through balls, and dribbling, which probably aren't what you would normally associate with a wing back. With his weaknesses being crossing, aerial duels, and tackling, perhaps stats that you would associate with being a wing back. And according to who scored again, his style of play is likes to dribble, likes to cut inside. Neil said he's left-footed, I think, and he likes to play short passes without diving into tackles as well. So Neil, again, this was your pick, so this is your time to shine. What's alerted you to Jenny Catamo? Because I've got to be honest, I haven't seen loads of him, if anything at all. I probably have watched him at some point, but I don't remember it.
So Villa have been linked with him before, so this isn't one that I just plucked from the sky. They have been linked with him recently as well. Now, it's been spurious links and football whispers and things like that. But what kind of got me thinking about Catamo was, this is solely because, people kind of denigrate Matty Cash for his lack of attacking confidence and his lack of taking on a player and maybe cutting back an awful lot. And I just went, you know what? Let's give the people what they want. Let's give them an attacking wing-back type. Let's give them somebody who is going to take on that player and get a cross into the box, or at least try and make something happen the further forward he goes with the ball. And I was kind of thinking somebody in the Ashley Young mold. As Ashley Young got older, he moved back the field. He obviously became a fullback, played on the right-hand side, played on the left-hand side. Obviously, he is a right-footed player, but that's really the reason I picked this guy. My initial pick was Arnaud Martinez, plays in Spain. We have some players that are playing in Spain coming up, so I couldn't pick somebody.
Yeah, we'd already filled that gap.
Exactly. Arnaud Martinez for me is I get really excited if we signed him. So I went with this guy, and it was, look, I'm not as averse in the Portuguese league as other people. It's not a league that I watch a ton of football in, but I simply picked this guy because he's really good carrying the ball forward. He's got Champions League experience, and he is that Swiss Army knife that can play either side to decent ability. And he's been trusted by the sporting manager, whose name escapes me now, and also by Ruben Amorim. Whether you think that that's a good thing or a bad thing, given what Amorim has done at Man United since he's came in. But the big things are, as I say, his capability of playing his versatility in different positions as well. He's very good at retaining the ball. He's decent. He's very assured, and his technique is very assured when he's passing the ball as well. So he's not a loose passer of the ball. As I say, attacking contributions are going to be better than any right fullback that's probably out there. And also, another reason I picked this guy was we saw him do it against us in Hakimi. What Hakimi did against us for Paris Saint-Germain. We saw how he absolutely destroyed Inter in the Champions League final. And previously, there was a want for people to sign their fullbacks to become that inverted defensive midfielder type. Whereas now, what you're seeing with Hakimi and the whole couture thing, the flavor of the month is, let's have our right fullback literally be our right winger. And if we want to go down that aspect, and I know it's not something Unai Emery has shown, but if you did, this guy would be somebody that would be able to do that. And in this new hybrid system that you potentially will see across Europe of free-flowing attacking fullbacks like Hakimi, potentially this is somebody that could do it. So this is a very left field pick for a fullback, but I think that it's as I say, it's something different, and I didn't want to go with somebody that people had already spoken about, like maybe a Thomas Araujo, and I couldn't go for somebody from La Liga because we needed to pick somebody from different leagues. So there you go, small little bit on Jenny Katamo. Have a look at him yourselves, guys, and he's a fun player.
It's not criticism, but one thing I'd like to say from Villa is it's pretty clear what the left wing back is there to do at Villa, the player on the left-hand side, providing that width. It's quite clear. I'd like us to kind of move with the times a little bit more at right back and maybe have someone that can invert. I know sometimes the right back obviously comes to make a back three, and Matty Cash has been curtailed quite a lot of times and told not to go forward because of the system. But I'd like to see that option of a player stepping into midfield and has progressed and kind of find a different way of playing down that right-hand side. So not necessarily Katamo, because I don't know loads about him, but I think if we were to sign a right fullback, I'd want to see some variety and I'd want to see something different. And let's move on to our centre-back, and a player that people will have heard of and a player that people will know stuff about already is Loic Bardell. I believe I've said that right. Recently made his international debut for France. They beat Germany 2-0 in the UEFA Nations League third place playoff, and he had a very good game. I caught quite a lot of that game, and he played really, really well in it. Bardell is, of course, we know Villa wanted him in January. He was reluctant to leave Sevilla, didn't see a pathway into the team at Villa, and that may not have changed. Now, if you look at his Who Scored kind of stats here that I've got in front of me, played 32 games this season, scored 1 goal, 1 assist. We don't really care about goals and assists for a centre-back, but his strengths are tackling and concentration, and the player has no significant weaknesses. He likes to bring the ball out from defence, and he likes a tackle as well. And if you watch his compilation reels, Neil, that rhymes, he's a player that I really, really like. The way he uses his body when he defends, the way he'll stand off and then step in at exactly the right time. He's a very physical player. He's a very elegant player. He's got good recovery pace. I think there are similarities between him and Saliba. Although he hasn't played there this season, he can play right back as well. So there could be times when him and Concert do play together. You're looking at around probably 20, 25 million pounds for Bardell, I think, although that may have increased with him making his France debut recently. This would be a really, really good pickup for Villa. This is a player we agreed on, but I'm not sure how realistic it is for some of the reasons that I just mentioned.
I think Villa are going to have to spend that type of money on a centre half.
Yeah, you have to.
I think that's literally the going rate for anyone that's half decent at the moment. I think that's for sure. The big thing for me with Bardell is, he was given the opportunity to do it in January. He didn't. Maybe we couldn't get the money together. Maybe it was all nonsense and we didn't actually go in for him. Who will ever know that? But he is a very, very interesting defender, as you said. The way he uses his body. He's a bigger guy at 6'3". he's bigger than Ezri Konsa from that point of view. Even playing him in there would allow us to move Konsa out. I don't think he would be the right back bad if he was to come in. I think it would mean Konsa would move, and there's discussions to be had on that. There have been discussions had on that, whether that's the right thing to do. But he brings you small a bit more, even in the point of view of, from being good in the air, being better in the air than some of the other players that we have. He's very mobile as well, He's a very athletic guy, and I think we need to have athleticism in that back line, specifically when you're playing Pau Torres at left back, because what he does from his passing ability and his ability to read the game and so on, athleticism isn't his forte. And Konsa does so well when he's beside him. And I think if you were going to move Konsa to right back, which once again, maybe we play a back three and you've got Jenny Katamo who comes in and plays that right wing back. I don't know.
I'm not sure Emery's going to be getting us on the coaching staff if I'm being honest, Neil.
No. But definitely, like as I say, he ticks a lot of boxes. Athleticism, that's what we've spoken about in the first three players we've had. An athletic goalkeeper who can get around the field. And get around his box and come out and help his defenders. An athletic right back that can get up and down the field and is available to play in both ways, whether it be an attack or defense. And also, you kind of want to bring in somebody, if you are bringing in somebody into that defense who is athletic, who's good in the air, and who's able to get around and win that ball as well. And like Bardell fits that bill. He does get around that field, and he's quite successful when he does try and engage players as well from a tackles won and a ball recovery point of view as well. So absolutely. I think if there was truth in rumours in January, then and we can afford him after the 30th of June, well, then I would be very much so on the Bardell boat.
Yeah, I think you've picked out a crucial thing there that, if Mings doesn't play, we do lack a dominant centre half. And then obviously, Pau Torres will play when Mings doesn't play. So you do almost think sometimes centre-back partnerships, quite often they both do different things. They can complement each other with what they do. And you do feel that if we were to go with Torres on the left-hand side, I'm not for 1 minute advocating to get Konsa out of the team or anything like that, but someone like Bardell next to him would be a more suitable partnership, I would say. So, yeah, a player that's been linked with Villa before, real high-level player. Villa have used La Liga. They've been in that market many times before. It's a market that Monchi, Emery and Vidagani will know well as well. The only slight thing for me is that him just becoming a France international has that just boosted his price too high for someone that we wouldn't be able to guarantee would be an essential starter every single week. But I really like him. Honestly, shades of William Saliba. When I have watched him, he'd be a player I'd be all for, and I'm sure a lot of Villa fans would as well. The next player that we're moving on to, Neil, is the midfielder, and it's Hugo Larsson from Frankfurt, a young player that's played an awful lot of games at a really high level, Swedish international. There's a lot of kind of talk about young Scandinavian players at the moment. Obviously, Villa have just missed out on one. The Bundesliga is an interesting market because I think it's probably one of the most physical leagues up there with the Premier League. I think players that come from the Bundesliga often hit the ground running. If you look at Marmoush, who obviously left Frankfurt, I think, to go to Manchester City, hit the ground running almost straight away for Manchester City. They're a really intriguing team, a team that's been operating really well for a number of years now, but it feels to me like the Premier League would be an ideal place for Hugo Larsson to play his football. Would you go along with that?
I would. He's 21 years of age soon. I think actually next week he's 21 years of age. But the biggest thing for me is that he's got a lot of football played in European football, should I say, like playing with Malmo in European football, playing with with Eintracht Frankfurt in European football as well this year. And he's made the step up from the Swedish league up to the Bundesliga, and he hasn't looked out of place. He's a big guy. He's 6'2". He's got the red hair there, so he's obviously qualified for Ireland somewhere along the line there, I would imagine. But biggest thing for me is that this guy is just, again, adaptability and versatility. It's going to be a trend in the majority of the people we talk about, probably outside of the striker that we talk about here. It's going to be that versatility. This guy can play 6, 8, 10, anywhere along that midfield, that central midfield positions. He's very industrious when he gets around there. He's got a very, very good passing range as well for somebody who's so young. It's not flawless. There are some rusty edges that he needs to grind out of his game, all right, from a technical proficiency point of view. But he is, like, you can see there's lots of progression there, and there has been, even from last year to this year, this time at Frankfurt as well. Work rate and defensive contribution is brilliant. You put him in that sixth position and he gets around that defensive third like nobody's business. You put him in the eighth position, he goes side to side in the field. Like, think a small bit about John McGinn without pigeonholing him in there. He doesn't have the posterior of John McGinn. He doesn't have the scuttleish run of John McGinn. But that's what I'm talking about. That person who gets around that field and is that kind of engine room in midfield. He utilizes his youth and his athleticism. And all that said as well, he's really mature on the ball for somebody who's 21, and that's why I'm bringing it up, because you don't look at him and see him kind of panicking, looking around, or hearing footsteps in his head that people are coming behind him. He's really good at just shielding that ball, using his 6'2" frame, and then getting that ball off. Albeit he's a bit spindly. You'd like him to put on a small bit of weight as he does grow older, just to be able to become that more robust, maybe like a Pierre-Emile Højbjerg type of midfielder as he does grow older. But for the time being, for like judging him as a 21-year-old, the raw tools there are absolutely fantastic, and the will to win and the will to get around that field and not give up you can't buy that stuff. That's an intangible that you either have or you don't, and this guy has it in spades.
No, he's spoken about as well that being compared to Goretzka. Obviously, Goretzka, he does have that frame. He does have the kind of biometrics that he is a strong player, Goretzka. But there are certainly similarities in his game. A great pickup for Frankfurt, but by Malmo. I think he might have even made his debut for Malmo as a teenager and came across to the Bundesliga relatively quickly. Won awards in Sweden. Now, like any good scout, and Neil and I are very good scouts, I've done my due diligence on the player, spoke to someone else in our realm, another European football expert, Neil, in Kevin Hatchard. Now, Kevin informs me that the price would probably be around 50 to 60 million pounds, which might be a little bit too much bang for the buck for Villa at this point, although things could become more flexible after June in terms of transfer fees, if not wages. That's obviously a bigger problem, although I don't think he'd command huge wages at this point. The second problem is that Frankfurt have qualified for the Champions League. So I would imagine he would like to have a season in the Champions League with Frankfurt now.
Yeah, you don't get a free lunch with Frankfurt. Like, they're known for, like, they're like they look at strikers particularly, and they go, yeah, we'll sell our striker for 70 million. We'll just buy another one and we'll sell for 70 million next year. Yeah, and they've a habit of doing this. They did it with Andre Silva previously, I think it was, and Ekitike is probably on his way out, Marmouche. I know that there's somebody else that I'm missing that Frankfurt have sold also as well. So yeah, I think that is a barrier to trade. Obviously, the high price tag, and obviously the strength of competition. But I've often said it as well. The Premier League is as much a draw as the Champions League is currently. The wages that are there, and arguably, you could argue that there was times last year that Villa had a lot harder games in the Premier League than they did in the Champions League. That's probably being a bit facetious, but you know what I mean? That that you've got 20 teams in the Premier League, 17 of those teams will probably give you a good game. There's usually the three teams that come up, well, recently have been a bit lackluster, but in the Champions League, we saw kind of the bottom 10 teams were grand, last year. So I'm not denigrating the Champions League. It's Les's prestige, but I'm saying that you don't think any less of the Premier League. The players on the continent will look at it and go, it's a really good standard. It's really good to get your profile, to increase your profile because of the amount of people that look at it. And hey, they're going to offer you probably 20% more in wages than most other leagues. So it will still be up there in a lot of people's minds. But yeah, I would find it, of all the players we talk about, this would be the hardest one, I think, for us to get across the line, just because of Frankfurt's difficultness to deal with from a price point of view, and also he's freshly there, and maybe he doesn't feel like he needs to make the step up just yet.
Also, probably out of all the positions, probably the least likely one that Villa will make a move for. I would say in central midfield, unless someone was to come and blow us away with an offer for Kamara, and then Villa would have the money to make a signing like this. Central midfield is probably the least urgent area of kind of reconfiguration at the moment for Villa. They're very strong in central midfield, but the brief was the brief, and this is what we came up with. That was a mutual pick, Hugo Larsson. Now we're getting to the exciting part now, Neil. Johan Bakayoko is our attacking midfielder / winger pick. Shades of Jeremy Doku. He's a Belgian international as well, been linked with Bournemouth, Arsenal, Bayer Leverkusen. I think he was linked with Brentford at one point, even Burnley at one point as well, when they're in the Premier League. Now, I think he's moved into that area, although I did hear some murmurs last week that he could be allowed to go for around 20 million, which would be an absolute steal for someone. This is a bona fide Leon Bailey replacement. He's a left-footed winger that likes to invert. Not absolutely rapid, but he's got 6.8 progressive carries per 90 minutes, which puts him in the top 5% of wingers in the Eredivisie. 4.2 successful dribbles per 90 minutes, and he averages 3.1 shots per 90 minutes as well. 18 caps for Belgium, 1 goal. This is a really interesting player because maybe in the top 2 for the players on here, where I think if Emery got a hold of him and could mould him and turn him into something, you could end up with a really, really special player, a real game changer, and could actually really help Villa down the right-hand side and change the way in which we play.
Yeah, I will. I've got a mental block in his first name, and I will call him Jonathan. So I do apologise,
Johan, I believe,
for that. Everything you want I think everything that a lot of teams would want in a flying winger, an out-and-out winger, to be honest with you, because he's got power, he's got pace, he's got. You mentioned Jeremy Doku, and to be honest with you, it does kind of sum him up. And without falling for the stereotype of that Belgian winger, that's
I think he's got more end products than Doku, though. I think he's a bit more potent, a bit more lethal. And I would say that without being outstanding in one metric, I would say he's at a high level in a lot. So he might not be a 10 out of 10 at anything, but I think he's probably an 8 at most things you'd want from an attacking player, which I think there's room for him to grow and room to improve him. You only have to look at his stats here, his weaknesses, his seeing his defensive contribution. That would be something that would have to be upped if he was to come to Villa and play under Unai Emery. Slight concern that he's been on the bench so much this season, Bakayoko, but Villa have plucked players from kind of more obscure positions. I think of Morgan Rogers playing in the Championship and doing well, but nobody saw what happened with him coming. I think this is probably the most realistic signing on the list now.
Yeah, well, it's probably the one that makes the most sense.
Yeah, because we know we're going to be in the market for that type of player as well in that position.
Absolutely, and look, he ticks a lot of boxes. He's got great pedigree. Like, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he ranked first in progressive carries in the Eredivisie, second in successful take-ons, or that might be inverted there as well. But he also had an incredible key pass rates as well within the Eredivisie this season too. And he's a very young player. I like to see that if you're putting up numbers like that, and people can talk about the strength of the Dutch league all you want, but he's 2-footed.
Gakpo came from there.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's 2-footed. He's able to play on that right hand side, and he does like to score a goal. I think they have 9 in the league last year, and I think 2 in the Champions League, if I'm not mistaken. So he is more of a goal threat from that right hand side. Not as much of an assist threat, but a goal threat. And we need to replace goals. My biggest thing is that we need to replace 16 goals from last year between Rashford and John Duran, who are longer at the club. And arguably, we never replaced the 21 goals. Well, I think if you adjust for the goals they scored this year as well, I think it comes down to about 18 or 19 goals that Douglas Luiz missed with Douglas Luiz and Leon Bailey's dropping forms. When we saw Douglas Luiz, obviously, and Leon Bailey's dropping form.
I suppose Rogers covered Diaby, didn't he? I guess.
Yeah.
We could know that, yeah.
Probably overcovered him as well. So look, what I'm getting at here is more goals from midfield, and is never a bad thing. And also the fact that in last year in the league, there was a time where you doubled up on Morgan Rogers. We moved him over to the right, tried to get him into the game a small bit more. People can have their thoughts about that as well. That's not what this is about. But becoming two-headed in attack is going to be really important for Aston Villa, so that we can get down both sides of teams. That will obviously bring its issues further back the field. But I think it's something that to mature once again as a team that Aston Villa are going to need to do, is to be able to attack from both sides of the field and not become kind of blunt at one side, for want of a better word, and then be kind of stuck against low and mid blocks.
Yeah, I read about him on Scouty, which I've discovered over the last month or so. Really, really good resource and well worth subscribing to. I don't know whether you're subscribed to it now, but I've become a subscriber recently. It's a really good resource. And there's a moment in the article that made me kind of think, and this is one of the reasons I put him in. It says, looking at him, he doesn't strike you as a powerful figure, but he's delightfully balanced, setting his feet and positioning his body well to ride contact, and his core strength allows him to stay upright and work his way through what he actually wants to do with possession. Now, for me, Leon Bailey the season before last was incredible and a real big reason why Villa finished fourth. And at times, especially in the first half of the season, when that form wasn't there, we really, really struggled and we didn't really have an alternative on the right-hand side. This is a player that's built for the Premier League, I think, and built for Aston Villa on that right-hand side for the way we want to play. So, yeah, that probably would be one of the out of this list. He's probably one of the main ones I would think is realistic and that I would like us to look at. I think Newcastle even have been linked with. He's been linked everywhere, basically. So yeah, he's a real high level player. And of course, I think he won the league this season as well with PSV. They had a really good year. The last one then, Neil. This is the one I'm probably most excited about on the list. This is the one I pushed for. This is the player I wanted. We had to choose a centre forward. Now, everyone will know how much I love Ollie Watkins, but this is a player that perhaps would be happy to be a supplementary striker and be a number 2 striker, but playing a lot of games because Villa are in the Europa League as well. This is a young player, a young Dutchman that's a standout talent. I'm surprised that kind of a lot of teams aren't being linked with him at the moment. Scored 14 goals in 27 for Ligue and for Strasbourg under Liam Rosenior. Now, the problem with this one would be, and I thought Chelsea might go for him in the summer, actually, and they didn't. It shocked me because obviously they're owned by Blueco, so players are moving between Chelsea and Strasbourg quite a lot. At the moment, we're seeing that as a bit of a pattern and a bit of a trend emerging. I'm sure Chelsea would be reluctant to see this player go to another Premier League team, so that's a potential barrier. But I watched this player, Neil, and you can go on YouTube and watch reels of this guy and you will fall in love with him instantly. I spoke to Jonathan Johnson about him offline the other day, not on the show, and he rates him as well. This is a precocious young talent. This is a player, when you watch him, he is left-footed, but you can't tell. He can go both ways. He's 6'5", but he's very, very nimble for a 6'5". When you think of a 6'5" striker, you don't think of someone who plays the game in the way Amiga does. If Watkins was to go and we were to bring in a striker, yes, he's a little bit raw still, but this is a player who I think's got a real high ceiling, and we've seen the work Emery's done with strikers throughout his career. I would be convinced that Emery would get this guy absolutely flying now.
A guy who's played I won't say he's played a lot of minutes, but he played 16 games as a 17-year-old for Sparta Rotterdam. Like, he's 6'5". He's a big guy. Moves very, very well. His father is Togolese, so maybe we could get Salifou to have a word there. Obviously, what Salifou says goes. Exactly, Agent Salifou. But if you do want to, that's something that when I saw him, he did remind me a small bit of Adebayor, just because tall guy, really good with the ball at his feet, good in the air, athletic, can run across defenses, can run in behind defenses, and can mix it with centre halves. So it's always funny when I talk about players that are 6'4", 6'5", and I use the phrase they know how to use their body, as if they've only realized yesterday that they were 6'5". They've always been tall, essentially, so I'd expect them to use their body, but he does. He uses it well. And what he does is he's also got that and he's not French, like he's obviously Dutch, but he's got that beautiful kind of flowing running style that French strikers have. Yeah, and especially coming off that left wing where he does like to pull out onto that left wing and come in from there. One of the things for me is that sometimes he looks like he's going to scuff a shot and he doesn't. And again, once again, I hope he hasn't realized yesterday that he's 6'5". But that to me is something that comes with a big striker. They look like their feet are going to get caught up, and then they deliver this beautiful flick pass, or they deliver this lovely little dink over the goalkeeper. And that's what I want to see. I don't want to see flat-footed, lead-footed kind of touches from big players, because I am a stereotype. I do think of them stereotypically like that. This guy doesn't have that. He's got nice light feet, and I thought he was really. I thought he was an impressive watch, and this is one that that we kind of both, well, you pushed for him big style, but I'd have absolutely no qualms about this fella coming to Aston Villa as well. And that's another thing as well, Dan, is that 5 years ago, 6 years ago, there was an absolute wasteland of number 10 or number 9 strikers in Europe. And all of a sudden, over the last 6 years, we've got 23 and younger. We've got this dearth of really good number 9s that are coming up. And it's giving teams food for thought about maybe going younger in the striking department and seeing what they can get. And Strasbourg have been proven right. They paid 13 million for this guy from Sturm Graz, another team who loves sending strikers.
Yeah.
And you know, he's paid back every single bit of that already for Strasbourg.
Yeah, I did a show 3 to 4 weeks ago on power forward, and I think you probably class Amiga as a power forward. Did that with Jake Entwistle from Scouty, just talking about the evolution of centre forwards and what clubs are looking for nowadays. And there's a great piece on Amiga, on Scouted as well. So there's a few bits that stand out there. The Dutchman has put up the 7th highest non-penalty XG per 90 minutes in the Big 5 leagues, making him among the best chance getters in Europe. He racks up high quality shots among players in the Big 5 European leagues who've played 900 minutes or more. Amiga has the highest XG per shot with 0.28. And despite standing at 6'5", Amiga is the fastest player in Ligue 1 with a top recorded speed of 37.7 kilometres per hour. He's also one of the most active runners up front in the league, leading all Ligue 1 forwards in sprints. His speed reduces the margin of error for markers, making his intelligent changes in speed and direction at key moments all the more lethal. I've spoke so many times before about Ollie does this, he does it very well. His defenders hate it when you stop and start, and Amiga's really good at that. And you know, the title of that article is if you want to score goals in transition, this guy's your man. And Scouted, as I say, such a brilliant resource. I can't believe I didn't know about it until a month ago. It says if you're looking to generate chances from direct attacks, if you're interested in I can fix him projects with regards to his decision making in the box, if you want to add a fast, movement heavy backup option to your centre forward pool, this is your guy. And yeah, that's perfect for Villa, because Villa want someone to fight for the spot with Ollie Watkins, if what we believe is to definitely be true in what Villa are targeting this transfer window. This guy would be a hell of a pickup. You've one reservation that might be a similarity to another centre forward at Villa, though, now, just to finish.
I don't have a reservation, but I've spent the whole year hearing Ollie Watkins has missed 27 big chances and Amiga has missed 25 big chances this year. And it just
gets himself in the positions now. That's what you want. Emery will help fix that.
Exactly it. Yeah, no, as I say, that's exactly it. You know, if you come to me with one statistic and you say this is a reason that we should definitely 100% not sign a striker, well, then I'm going to show you 5 other strikers who've got a bigger number or a similar number that we would absolutely sign if you didn't know that they had that number. You know, so like that statistic is often trotted out about Ollie Watkins, and we can feel that way about him because we watch 90 minutes of him every single week. But you know, just it's there. This guy has missed 25 big chances, and if you think that that's a deal breaker, well, then maybe you don't want to sign this guy. But you should want to sign this guy because he's a very good striker.
Yeah. So out of everyone that we've come up with here, Scout Neil, which one would you say is the most realistic, and which one would you like the most?
I know we said Bakayoko is probably the most realistic, but I think just given the fact that we've been linked to him before, I'm going to say like Bade might be. I'm going to go with that because I know you're going to go with Bakayoko. But the one I would like the most is I'm on record as saying that I think that Villa have to absolutely have a quality backup for Ollie Watkins this year. And if you could have someone like Emmanuel Omega in there, that would be absolutely quality. Now there are other strikers there, like Lucas Stassen, like Franjo Ivanovic, young strikers I'm talking about. You could come in because we've sold John Duran. I think we sold John Duran about a year earlier than we expected to.
But we've shown that we can be a good breeding ground for a young striker as well, haven't we?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I was going to say, that, you know, teams will look at it and go, Duran, you know, Duran got his time and he was used, and people will say he wasn't used enough, but he was used enough for everybody to stand up and go, yeah, this guy's good. You know, so and if you're a young striker and you want to come, you want to be put in the spotlight, and yes, you are going to play behind Ollie Watkins, but you're going to get chances to put the ball in the back of the net, and Unai Emery is going to nurture you, and if he wants you, you should want to come and play for him too. So that's my pitch for Emmanuel Omega.
Well said. So right now, we did want to keep this to half an hour, but we've gone slightly over for 40 minutes. But there was a lot to talk about, and we've come up with a lot there. Great scouting from the both of us. I think we should give ourselves a massive pat on the back. And I just want to thank you for coming on the channel, Neil. Really appreciate it. And get you back on soon. I'm changing the direction of the channel again, and definitely be getting you back on soon. I have more changes of direction than Manuel Amiga, to be fair to me. But yeah, back on soon.
Yeah, absolutely, anytime. Yeah, I talk Aston Villa all day long, to whoever wants to listen. So thanks a million for having me on.
Yeah, and don't forget to check out Neil and Paddy's podcast, For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. I'm sure you all know what it is by now, but do go and check that out as well, because it's a great channel. So many great Villa podcasts to choose from. But yeah, Neil and Paddy are two of my favourite people in the Villa stratosphere. Right then, if you've watched this video via YouTube, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe with your post notifications on. That's very important. Give us a like as well, and give us a comment with whether you agree with our choices or who you would have picked instead. But do remember the stipulations. We could only choose one player from each league, so it was a more difficult task than perhaps it could have been if we'd have had free reign. If you've listened via Apple Podcasts or Spotify, then reviews, 5-star reviews would be preferable. Say something nice about us. Subscribe on there as well. I think you can subscribe on Apple and Spotify, so you know when the content's coming next. Keep your eye on our social media channels as well. There'll be plenty more content coming up through the week. I did a fixture reaction podcast, so go and have a listen or a watch of that if you can and you haven't done so already. And yeah, only one thing left to say: up the Villa.